My brother Cameron got everything first. First bike. First car. First college acceptance letter framed on the wall. First real job with a salary mom could brag about at church. First everything. I was born second 3 years later, and spent my entire childhood hearing about Cameron's accomplishments while mine were footnotes. Cameron made honor roll again. Mom would announce at dinner. I made honor roll too, but nobody framed my report cards. Cameron played varsity football. Captain senior year. The local newspaper did a feature on him. Dad kept copies in his office for years. I played tennis. Made it to state finals junior year. Dad forgot to come to the match because he was helping Cameron move into his dorm at UNC. The pattern was set early. Cameron was the success story. I was the supporting character in his narrative. After high school, Cameron went to UNC on a partial academic scholarship. Studied business. Joined the best fraternity. Graduated with honors and 3 job offers. Chose a consulting firm in Charlotte. Started at $78,000. I went to a small liberal arts college 2 hours away. Studied economics and environmental science. An unusual combination that made Dad ask, "What kind of job does that get you?" I'm interested in sustainable development and coastal economics. So, nothing practical. I worked through college. Waited tables, tutored, did landscaping during summers. Graduated with $31,000 in student loans that I was determined to pay off as quickly as possible. Cameron graduated debt-free. Mom and Dad had covered what his scholarship didn't. My first job was with a marine conservation nonprofit in Miami. Salary, $34,000. I lived in a tiny studio apartment in a questionable neighborhood, ate ramen most nights, and spent my days working on coastal development policy. Cameron's consulting career flourished. By 25 he was making $110,000. Bought a condo in Charlotte's fancy South End neighborhood. Posted photos of it constantly. The skyline views, the rooftop pool, the granite countertops. At 25 I was living in the same studio, driving a 15-year-old Corolla, wearing thrift store clothes to work. Mom called it finding yourself. Dad called it not applying yourself. Cameron called it the struggle years we all go through. Except Cameron hadn't struggled. Not really. What they didn't know, what I never told them, was that I wasn't struggling. I was strategizing. My nonprofit work had connected me with developers, environmental lawyers, and coastal property owners. I learned how coastal real estate worked, how development rights functioned, how environmental regulations affected property values, how smart investors identified undervalued coastal properties. And I was saving everything. Every dollar beyond bare minimum living expenses went into investment accounts. I studied real estate markets obsessively, learned property law, networked quietly with investors and developers. At 27 I made my first purchase. A small beachfront lot in Wilmington that was tangled in environmental permitting issues. Bought it for $140,000. Used every dollar I'd saved plus a small loan. Spent 8 months navigating the permit process. Got approval for a small eco-friendly development. Sold the lot 18 months later for $380,000. Nobody in my family knew. They thought I was still working at the nonprofit, barely making rent. I took that profit and started investing strategically. More coastal properties with development potential. Small beach cottages that could be renovated. Lots that needed environmental clearance that I knew how to obtain. By 30 my real estate portfolio was worth $1.8 million. By 32 $4.2 million. My family still thought I was a struggling nonprofit worker living paycheck to paycheck. Cameron meanwhile made partner at his consulting firm. His salary climbed to $210,000 plus bonuses. He bought a bigger condo, got engaged to Melissa, a pharmaceutical sales rep. They posted endless photos of expensive dinners, weekend trips to Miami, wine tastings in Napa. I still lived simply. Moved from the studio to a 1-bedroom apartment above a surf shop. Drove a 5-year-old Honda. Wore shorts and t-shirts most days. Worked remotely now. I'd transitioned to consulting on coastal development projects while managing my growing property portfolio. At 34 I saw the opportunity I'd been waiting for. The Pelican Bay Resort, a struggling beachfront property in Topsail Beach, North Carolina. 32 units, restaurant, pool, direct beach access. Beautiful bones but catastrophically mismanaged. Failing environmental compliance, outdated infrastructure, mounting debt. It was going into foreclosure. I spent 3 months doing due diligence. Environmental assessments, structural surveys, financial analysis, development potential studies. The property needed $2.4 million in upgrades and environmental remediation. But it sat on 7 acres of prime beachfront. Once properly managed and brought into environmental compliance, it could be worth $18 to $22 million. I structured a complex acquisition. Used $3.1 million from my portfolio, brought in 2 silent investor partners, secured financing for the rest. Total acquisition and renovation budget, $11.7 million. At 35 years old, I became the majority owner of the Pelican Bay Resort. Spent the next 18 months executing a complete transformation. Environmental remediation. Infrastructure upgrades. Renovated all 32 units. Rebuilt the restaurant. New pool, new landscaping, new everything. But I did it sustainably. Solar panels, water reclamation systems, native plant landscaping, turtle-friendly lighting. The resort became a model for sustainable coastal development. Got featured in environmental tourism publications. Occupancy rates climbed to 87%. Revenue tripled. Current valuation, $23.5 million. My personal net worth, including the resort and other properties, $31.2 million. My family thought I was still working at a nonprofit, probably making $45,000 a year. I'd purchased one of the resort's units for my personal use, a 3-bedroom beachfront condo on the top floor. Nothing extravagant by resort standards, but it had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the ocean, a wraparound balcony and direct beach access. I'd never mentioned it to my family. Never invited them to visit. They didn't ask about my life anyway, so there was nothing to explain. The resort operated under a management company name, Coastal Horizon Properties LLC. My name appeared nowhere in public records except buried in corporate documents. The staff knew me as Mr. Donovan, but most had never seen me. I managed remotely and kept a low profile during my occasional visits. Only the resort manager, Patricia, and a few key staff knew what I looked like. Then Cameron called. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I was sitting on my condo balcony reviewing quarterly financial reports when my phone rang. Ethan. How's it going, little brother? Hey Cameron. I'm good. Listen, I'm actually calling about something important. You know how you've been struggling financially? I hadn't been struggling, but, okay. Melissa and I were talking and we want to help. We know you've been living in that crappy apartment working at the nonprofit for basically no money. We want to do something for you. That's nice of you, but... Remember that beach condo you mentioned years ago? The one in Topsail Beach. My blood went cold. What about it? Well, I did some research. Found the property records. That little condo you bought as an investment. He said it like investment was a cute fantasy. It's worth something now. Maybe $180,000 based on comparable sales in the area. Cameron. Let me finish. I know you probably can't afford the property taxes and maintenance. Small condos like that are money pits. So I took the initiative, found a buyer through a real estate agent friend. Cash offer, quick close. $185,000. That'll clear your debts, give you a fresh start. You did what? I helped you. The buyer is motivated, ready to close next week. I already started the paperwork. Since I have that old power of attorney from when you were doing that project in Costa Rica. Remember, you gave me access to handle stuff while you were out of the country? I can sign on your behalf. Easy. That power of attorney. I'd forgotten about it. 5 years ago, during a 3-month conservation project, I'd given Cameron limited power of attorney to handle a single property transaction if needed. It was supposed to expire after that transaction. Apparently he still had the document. Cameron, you can't sell my property. Bro, I'm helping you. $185,000 is more than you'd get listing it yourself. The buyer even waives inspection. You should be thanking me. I'm not selling. Ethan, be realistic. You can't afford to keep a beach condo. The taxes alone are probably killing you. Take the money, clear your debts, start fresh. Cameron, listen to me very carefully. That property is not for sale. You don't have authority to sell it. I have power of attorney. For a specific transaction that concluded 5 years ago. That authority expired. If you attempt to sell my property, you'll be committing fraud. Silence. Fraud? Jesus, Ethan, I'm trying to help you. Then stop. Don't sign anything. Don't talk to any buyers. Leave my property alone. Mom and Dad agree with me. We all think. You discussed my property with Mom and Dad? Of course. We're worried about you. This sale is the best thing for your financial situation. I hung up. Immediately called Patricia, my resort manager. Patricia, I need you to do something urgently. Someone may attempt to fraudulently sell my personal condo. I need security increased and I need documentation of ownership posted clearly. Mr. Donovan, I'll handle it immediately. Should I alert our legal team? Yes. And Patricia, the person attempting the sale is my brother. He's operating under an expired power of attorney. If he shows up at the property or contacts resort staff, I want to be notified immediately. Understood, sir. I sat on my balcony watching the waves, processing what Cameron had tried to do. My phone buzzed. Family group chat. Cameron just tried to help Ethan sell his little condo. He got defensive. Mom, he's probably embarrassed about his financial situation. Dad, the sale sounds smart. Maybe we should talk to him together. Cameron, I already found a buyer. $185,000 cash. Should have the deal done by next week. Mom, that's wonderful. He needs the money. I stared at the messages. They were planning to force through a sale of my property. Property worth. I pulled up recent appraisals. Approximately $1.2 million, since it was a premium unit in a now luxury resort. They were trying to sell my $1.2 million condo for $185,000. I didn't respond to the group chat. Instead, I called my attorney. David, I need help with a family situation that's about to become a legal situation. After explaining everything, David was quiet for a moment. Ethan, to be clear, your brother is attempting to sell your personal residence, which is part of a resort you own, for a fraction of its value, using expired legal authority? Correct. That's attempted theft, fraud, and possibly real estate fraud. We need to shut this down immediately. Over the next 24 hours, David worked quickly. Sent cease and desist letters. Contacted the buyer's agent, who was shocked to learn the actual value and ownership situation. Filed notices with the county recorder's office. Prepared documentation for potential criminal charges. Then Cameron showed up at the resort. Patricia called me at 2 p.m. Wednesday. Mr. Donovan, your brother just arrived at the front desk with a real estate agent and a couple who appear to be buyers. He's demanding access to your condo to show it. Don't grant access. I'll be there in 15 minutes. I was already at the resort, had been staying in my condo since Cameron's call, anticipating this exact scenario. I took the elevator to the lobby. Wore what I always wore, shorts, t-shirt, flip-flops. Looked like any other beach bum, not the owner of a $23.5 million resort. Cameron stood at the front desk arguing with Patricia. Behind him, a nervous real estate agent and a middle-aged couple who looked excited about buying a beach condo. I don't care about your policies, Cameron was saying loudly. I have power of attorney for the owner. I'm authorized to access the property. Patricia remained calm. Sir, as I've explained, that power of attorney is expired and invalid. We cannot grant access without Mr. Donovan's explicit permission. This is ridiculous. It's my brother's condo. He's just being difficult because he's embarrassed about his finances. I approached the desk. Hey, Cameron. He spun around. Ethan. Finally. Tell your desk clerk here to let us see the condo. These are the buyers, Tom and Sandra. They're ready to make an offer. I told you the property isn't for sale. Ethan, come on. Be reasonable. $185,000 is a great price for a small condo like this. The real estate agent was looking around the resort lobby. The marble floors, the custom lighting, the oceanfront views through floor-to-ceiling windows. You could see her recalculating. Mr. Donovan, she said carefully, can I ask what comparable sales you're basing your valuation on? Because this resort appears to be quite upscale and... The condo isn't for sale at any price, I said. Cameron grabbed my arm. Stop being stubborn. You need this money. We're trying to help you. Patricia cleared her throat. Mr. Cameron Donovan, I need to inform you that resort security has been notified of this situation. Additionally, our legal team has prepared documentation regarding your attempted fraudulent sale of resort property. Cameron stared at her. Resort property? It's my brother's condo. Yes, Patricia said calmly. Your brother's private residence, which happens to be within the Pelican Bay Resort, which your brother owns. The silence was deafening. What? Cameron said. I'm the owner of the Pelican Bay Resort, I said quietly. Have been for 3 years. The condo you're trying to sell for $185,000 is worth approximately $1.2 million and is my private residence. Cameron's face went through several colors. You own this resort? All 32 units, the restaurant, 7 acres of beachfront property. Current valuation, $23.5 million. The real estate agent made a small choking sound. Tom and Sandra, the potential buyers, were backing away slowly. That's impossible, Cameron said. You work at a nonprofit. You drive a shitty car. You live in a crappy apartment. I live here, I corrected. The apartment in Wilmington is an investment property I rent out. This is my primary residence. Has been for 2 years. But you don't have money. Mom and Dad said. Mom and Dad assumed. You all assumed. I never confirmed anything. You just never asked enough questions to learn the truth. Patricia had her tablet out. Mr. Donovan, should I brief your brother on the legal situation? Our attorneys have prepared quite comprehensive documentation. Please. Patricia turned to Cameron. Mr. Cameron Donovan, you have attempted to sell property you don't own, using expired legal authorization, for approximately 15% of its actual value. This constitutes attempted fraud, real estate fraud, and theft. Our legal team has prepared criminal complaints with local law enforcement and civil suits for damages. Cameron's face had gone pale. I was trying to help him. By stealing his property? I asked calmly. I didn't know. You let me think you were broke. You assumed I was broke. You never asked about my actual financial situation. You just decided you knew, and then you tried to sell my property without permission. The real estate agent was backing toward the exit. I need to go. I had no idea about any of this. My client was told this was a legitimate sale. Your client was told correctly by my brother that this was my property, I said. What he failed to mention is that he had no authority to sell it and it's worth 6 times what he quoted you. She fled. Tom and Sandra followed quickly. Cameron stood in the middle of my resort lobby looking lost. Ethan, I don't understand. How do you own a resort? Where did you get millions of dollars? I invested strategically for 15 years. Worked in coastal development, learned property law, bought undervalued properties, built a portfolio. This resort was my largest acquisition. Bought it in foreclosure, renovated it, turned it around. But you live like you're poor. I live simply because I don't need to impress anyone. I drive a reliable car because I don't care about status symbols. I wear shorts and t-shirts because I live at the beach. None of that has anything to do with my net worth. Which is what? His voice was hollow. Around $31 million, mostly in property equity. He sat down heavily on one of the lobby's custom furniture pieces. A chair that cost $2,400. Jesus Christ. Patricia's phone buzzed. Mr. Donovan, local police are here. They'd like statements regarding the attempted fraud. 2 officers entered the lobby. I spent the next hour giving statements, providing documentation, walking them through Cameron's attempted sale. Cameron sat silently through all of it, looking increasingly devastated as the legal implications became clear. After the police left, with documentation and a promise to review the case with the DA, Cameron finally spoke. Am I going to jail? That depends on several factors, I said. Whether the DA decides to prosecute. Whether you make restitution for damages. Whether I decide to press charges. You'd send your own brother to jail? You tried to steal property worth over $1 million from me. What would you call that? A mistake. I thought I was helping. You thought you knew better than me about my own life and my own property. You assumed I was incompetent and needed your rescue. You never asked permission. You just decided. Mom's voice came from behind us. What is happening? I turned. Mom and Dad stood in the lobby entrance looking confused. Mom. Dad. What are you doing here? Cameron called, Dad said. Said there was some confusion about the condo sale. We came to help mediate. There's no confusion, I said. Cameron attempted to sell my property. This condo in this resort that I own, without my permission, using expired legal authorization for a fraction of its value. This resort. Mom looked around slowly. Ethan, what is Cameron talking about? You owning a resort. Patricia stepped forward. Mr. and Mrs. Donovan, I'm Patricia Chin, resort manager. Your son Ethan is the owner of the Pelican Bay Resort. Has been for 3 years. He acquired the property in foreclosure and executed a comprehensive renovation that transformed it into one of the region's premier sustainable coastal resorts. Mom sat down next to Cameron, both of them staring at me like I was a stranger. Dad walked to the lobby windows, looking out at the pristine beach, the renovated pool area, the restaurant terrace. You own all of this? Yes. How? 15 years of strategic real estate investment. Started with a small lot in Wilmington, built from there. I specialize in coastal properties with environmental challenges that I know how to resolve. But you work at a nonprofit, Mom said weakly. I did. Past tense. 10 years ago. I've been a private consultant and property investor for the last decade. You just never asked about my current work. We thought you were struggling, she said. Why? Because I don't post photos of expensive dinners on social media? Because I don't drive a luxury car? Because I don't talk about money constantly like Cameron? Cameron flinched at that. You let us think you needed help, Dad said. I let you assume what you wanted to assume. You needed me to be the struggling younger brother so Cameron could be the successful one. It made the family dynamics work. I didn't correct you because honestly, it was easier than dealing with your expectations. We would have been proud of you. Mom said. Would you? Or would you have just treated me differently? Started asking for money, wanting investments, expecting me to solve your problems? I've seen what happens when families find out someone is wealthy. It changes everything. Patricia's tablet buzzed. Mr. Donovan, your attorney is on video call. He'd like to discuss next steps. I took the call in my private office, a small space off the main lobby that most guests didn't even know existed. David appeared on screen. Ethan, the DA is very interested in this case. Attempted real estate fraud for this amount is serious. What do you want to do? I thought about it. About Cameron sitting in my lobby, devastated. About my parents, confused and hurt. About 15 years of being underestimated. What are the options? Full prosecution, he could face felony charges, prison time. Or we can negotiate a settlement. Restitution, formal admission of wrongdoing, restraining orders regarding your property, probation. What's your recommendation? Honestly, he's your brother. If you want to preserve any family relationship, settlement is probably better. But that's your call. What he did was serious enough to prosecute fully. Let me talk to him first. I'll call you back. I returned to the lobby. My family sat together on the expensive furniture, looking small and lost. Cameron, let's talk. Privately. We walked out to the beach. The sun was setting, turning the water gold and pink. My beach. My resort. My success that nobody had believed in. I'm sorry, Cameron said immediately. I genuinely thought I was helping. I had no idea you were successful. You seemed like you were struggling and I wanted to fix it. Why did you think I was struggling? Because you live simply. Because you don't talk about money. Because you're not showy like. He stopped. Like you. I finished gently. Yeah. Like me. I base everything on appearances. The condo, the car, the social media post. I measure success by visible status. You don't do any of that, so I assumed you had nothing. I have everything that matters to me. Business I built. Properties I love. Work that aligns with my values. Financial security. Peace. And a family that completely misunderstood you. Yes. We walked in silence for a while. What happens now? Cameron asked. The DA thing. Am I going to prison? That depends. On what? On whether you understand what you did wrong. Not just the illegal part. The fundamental assumption that you knew better than me about my own life. I do understand. I really do. I made assumptions based on appearances and almost destroyed something you built. I'm so sorry, Ethan. I need more than sorry. I need real change. Can you do that? What kind of change? Stop measuring success by status symbols. Stop assuming you know better than other people about their lives. Stop trying to fix things that aren't broken. Can you do that? He was quiet for a long time. I can try. I want to try. Then here's what happens. You make formal restitution, $50,000 for legal fees, damages, and my time dealing with this mess. You attend counseling to address why you felt entitled to control my property. You stay away from all my business affairs unless explicitly invited. Any violation of those terms and I prosecute fully. Understand? Yes. All of it. I'll do it. And Cameron, if we rebuild a relationship, it has to be real. Not based on money or status or comparisons. Just two brothers who actually know each other. Can you do that? I'd like to try, he said quietly. We walked back to the resort. Mom and Dad were still in the lobby looking exhausted. We're going to handle this privately, I told them. Cameron will make restitution and we'll work on rebuilding trust. But we need to establish some boundaries. What kind of boundaries? Mom asked. You don't get to make assumptions about my life anymore. You don't get to decide what's best for me. You don't get to treat me like the struggling younger brother who needs rescue. If you want a relationship with me, it has to be based on who I actually am. Dad nodded slowly. Fair. More than fair. We owe you a massive apology, Ethan. For years of not seeing you. I accept the apology. But apologies are just words. I need to see changed behavior. You will, Mom promised. Can we start over? Really get to know you? Maybe. But not today. Today I need you all to leave. Let me process this. They left slowly, Cameron looking back twice with an expression I'd never seen before. Genuine remorse mixed with something like respect. Patricia approached after they'd gone. Mr. Donovan, you handled that with remarkable grace. Thanks, Patricia. Can you do me a favor? Anything. Increase security on my personal residence. Change all access codes. And brief the entire staff. If any member of my family appears on property without my explicit permission, I want to be notified immediately. Consider it done. And sir? For what it's worth, the entire staff is incredibly proud of you. What you built here, how you handled this situation. You're an exceptional leader. I went back to my condo. Stood on the balcony watching the waves, processing everything. My phone buzzed. Text from Cameron. Transferred the first installment of restitution. $10,000. We'll send the rest over the next few months. Starting counseling next week. Thank you for giving me a chance. Then Dad, your mother and I are staying in Wilmington tonight. Can we take you to breakfast tomorrow? No assumptions, no advice. Just listening. I responded to Dad, breakfast works. 9 a.m. There's a cafe in Wilmington I like. I'll text you the address. To Cameron, I didn't respond yet. Words were easy. I needed to see sustained changed behavior. Over the next 3 months, things shifted slowly. Cameron paid the full restitution. Started therapy. Called me weekly, actually asking about my work, my life, my thoughts. Stopped posting showy social media content. Started examining his own relationship with status and success. Mom and Dad visited monthly. Real visits where they asked real questions. Toured my properties. Met my staff. Learned about my work in sustainable development. Started understanding who I actually was rather than who they'd assumed I was. The DA reviewed the case and decided not to prosecute given the restitution and family resolution. The buyer and real estate agent dropped out of the picture entirely, having learned their lesson about due diligence. 6 months after Cameron's attempted sale, he called me from his therapist's office. Can I ask you something? Sure. Do you forgive me? Really? I thought about it. I'm working toward forgiveness. It's a process. You tried to steal from me, but you've been doing the work to change. Keep doing that work and we'll get there. Fair. Hey, can I ask you something else? Go ahead. How did you do it? Build all this while we were so busy dismissing you. I stopped needing your validation. Once I realized your approval didn't matter, that I was building for myself, not for an audience, everything became easier. I could focus on the work instead of the performance. That's actually really wise. Therapy's helping you, huh? He laughed. Yeah. Turns out I have some issues with external validation and competitive comparison. Who you? I knew. But I'm glad you're figuring it out. We talked for another hour. Real conversation. Getting to know each other as adults rather than as the roles we'd been assigned as kids. A year after the attempted sale, I invited my family to the resort for Thanksgiving. Gave them real rooms. Nice ones, not my personal residence. Showed them around properly. Let them see what I'd built. At dinner, Dad raised his glass. I want to propose a toast. To Ethan, who built something extraordinary while we were too blind to see it. We're sorry for the years we missed. And we're grateful for the second chance. Everyone drank. Even Cameron, who added, and I'm sorry for almost destroying it through my own stupidity and entitlement. You didn't destroy it, I said. You revealed it. Maybe that needed to happen. Mom was crying. We're so proud of you. Thank you. But I don't need you to be proud. I need you to see me. The real me. That's all I've ever needed. We see you now, she promised. Maybe they did. Or maybe they were starting to. Either way, I had what mattered most. A business I'd built, a life I loved, and finally, a family relationship based on reality instead of assumptions. Cameron never tried to sell my property again. In fact, he became one of my most trusted advisors. His business background, combined with his new self-awareness, made him genuinely helpful. We rebuilt our relationship slowly. Not based on competition or comparison, but on actual respect and understanding. And every time I stood on my balcony watching the sunset over my resort, I thought about how close I'd come to losing it all to someone who thought they knew better. But I hadn't lost it. Because I'd built something strong enough to withstand even family assumptions. And that was worth more than any amount of money. Even $31.2 million.